Dave here with Half Dozen Customs. Last night we had a little camera issue where somehow my file got corrupted in GoPro and we lost everything. So last night we had gotten the old aluminum floor pulled out. And we're going to replace it with metal now. And I need to lay, I have a brand new sheet that we're going to lay in here, and then I need to mark it and cut it so that I can use the leftover metal to continue on with working on the bed. But I want to get this kind of cleaned up in here a little bit. Now I'm not going to get it cleaned up and painted and finished quite yet. But I need to get it cleaned up a little bit, and there's a couple of spots in here that need to be repaired before I put the new metal in. I mean, I could lay the new metal in here and we can mark it and cut it. But if I can get the new metal to lay in here flat the way that it's supposed to, the way that it will at the end of the day, the better. So I don't have any chances of you know, little ripples being added going along, and you know, I mark it and I cut it, and then I get everything all straightened out. We go to lay the piece of metal in, and you know, it's an 1/8 inch shorter than I would like, or you know, if it's longer, hey, no big deal. I can always cut a little off. But if it ends up being shorter, that's bad news. So I might as well just get it cleaned up, get all the gunk, all the loose paint, all the, you know, rush chunks, whatever's in here. I might as well get it cleaned up right now. There's a couple of places that the metal needs to be cut out and replaced. So we'll go ahead and we'll do that. And then we'll get the new piece of metal laid in. Probably not tonight, but you know, maybe tomorrow we'll get the new piece of metal laid in, we'll get it marked, we'll get it cut, and then we'll move on with the rest of the bed. So, enough talking. Let's get to making a mess. Okay, so we kind of got it cleaned up. Now, this is just kind of a rough cleaning. There's a lot of stuff that still needs to be assessed. You know, I may do some sandblasting, some wire wheeling, come in with the needle scaler. Definitely coming in with the needle scaler for sure. And then, you know, some of it'll probably get PR 15. Some of it'll just get painted. Now, the thing with PR 15 is it only sticks to rust. It doesn't stick to paint. It doesn't stick to bare metal. You know, the PR 15 may go in some spots, but not all of it. So, last night, since we lost a video last night, I don't know if you guys can see that, but there was rivets that held the aluminum down in the back. And I left them in this back piece because it's a closed piece. If I knock the rivets down in there, they're going to be in there rattling around for the rest of the truck's life. So I just ground them flat, and they'll get painted in, and you know, fingers crossed they stay put. So, but the rest of it, you know, I drilled them out, knocked them out, whatever. Now those holes will stay there. I'm not going to go through and weld up each and every hole. You're only going to see them from underneath, and you know, by the time everything's all painted and undercoated, and you know, they won't be that noticeable, and yeah, they're just going to stay there. I'm not going to get rid of them. So the ones that go along the side of the bed here, like that guy, you know, there's that guy, they go all the way along. Now, depending on where those fall in line with the new metal, I know the new metal is not going to cover them, but the new metal is going to get spot welded in place. You know, we'll do probably like a dozen spot welds down each side, and then it's going to get seam sealed along the edge between this and the new metal. So if that seam sealer will cover those holes, then we'll leave them. But if it's not going to cover the holes, then I got to go through and I got to weld them all up. But like this spot right here, if you can see it, so that's one of the spots I was saying, like, I need to get that repaired before I lay the new metal in. And it's because the metal is nice and straight, and then it humps up right where all that rust is, because there's rust between the two pieces of metal. I'm going to take the needle scaler. I'm going to try and knock some of that rust out that's in between everything, see if we can hammer it down back flat. I'll cut that piece out. We'll weld a new piece in, and then I can lay the new floor in here, and we can, you know, take a measurement of it. So I need to get that stuff fixed regardless. Not only am I doing it so that, you know, the measurements come out correct, so that it's laying flat where it needs to go, but I don't want the floor doing this as it goes along the side of the bed. That's how the old floor was, and it's part of the reason why we're replacing it. So but yeah, so that's it. So I'm gonna get the needle scaler now. I'm gonna get it stuck in between these two pieces of metal. You'll see what I'm talking about. And then we'll do a little hammering and see if we can't flatten some of this metal out. There's a couple spots on that side that need to be flattened out, but nothing over there that I see that needs to be replaced. Just need to flatten it out in a couple areas. And then we'll start working on getting this other piece cut out and replaced. So, and then, you know, before this new piece of metal goes in, I'll probably end up needle scaling everything. We'll PR 15 what needs to be PR 15. Then it'll get some 2-in-1. I use Rust-Oleum paint and primer in one, or primer paint in one, which You know, some people say that that stuff is better than PR15. You know, Rust-Oleum, you know, was originally designed to go over rust and protect it from, you know, spreading farther, hence the rust in the title of the name. So some people swear that that stuff is better than PR15. In some instances, you know, I agree with it. You know, have you ever put PR15 over a really chunky rust spot, and then tried to get it back off? Like, it's almost impossible to get that stuff off. It's super difficult to. That stuff is a fight. Where Rust-Oleum's not like that, but the Rust-Oleum comes in where there's nice shiny metal, or there's still some paint there, or some primer there, or whatever. That's where the Rust-Oleum comes in, because that stuff will stick to paint. So it'll get Rust-Oleum, or it'll get PR15 where it needs it. It'll get Rust-Oleum the rest. Then I'll undercoat everything that needs to be undercoated, and the piece of metal I'm actually gonna paint the color of the truck. On the bottom side, it'll get painted, base coat, clear coated. We'll wet sand and buff it. Then across these bars, I'll put some seam sealer, or maybe some panel bonding adhesive. Across all these boards, we'll lay the piece of metal in, and then I'll do my spot welds going all the way down. It'll get seam sealed along both sides. And then everything's gonna get primed and sanded down, and it'll get the bed liner put in it. And the bed liner I got is the same color as the truck. It's color matched. So, but then that way when you look underneath, each one of these bars will be black, undercoated, look nice, good, clean, everything will look good, and then you'll see the blue in between all the black. It should look really sharp. So I figured, instead of, you know, me just undercoating everything underneath there, you know, getting underneath here, trying to prime, then you got to sand it, then you got to, you know, do whatever, and then you got to undercoat it. And I figured it'd just be much easier if we do the piece of metal before we even lay it down. And then I'll do my spot welds on the sides here. You won't see it because of this lip. You won't see where I spot weld. It'll be a nice, pretty, shiny paint underneath there. I think it'll look sharp. So yeah, so that's the plan that we're gonna go with as this moves forward. Once all the patchwork is done, that'll be in the steps of process. So. See, got it stuck. See, what I'm trying to do here is that there's this like angle iron structure that was built first, and then they built these bed sides out of really thick sheet metal, and then they put it on top of the angle iron and welded it down. It's a custom made bed, but it never got protected in between. Or if they did do any protection, it didn't work. And it started rusting in between the two pieces of metal, and as rust grows and grows and grows, it pushes the metal apart. And I'm just trying to get some of that out of there. I'm actually pushing it out the other side. So. Okay, so I think we got it pretty well cleaned out, which is good. When I did this panel on the outside, I tried with the needle scaler and with wire wheel, sandblaster, screwdriver and hammer. I tried everything to get the rust buildup out of these two pieces of metal. I haven't done, I didn't do the outside on this side yet, so I'm kind of getting a jump start on it over here. But no matter what I did, I wasn't able to get it all out. I wish that I could have. And my buddy who owns a truck even said something about, getting that out of there. And I was like, look, unless I cut everything open, like, there's just no way to get it out of there. Well, now that we got the floor out, I was able to get to it, and we were able to get it all out of there. So that's awesome. I'm super happy we were able to get that out. Okay, I switched out to a smaller used cutoff disc. See if I can maybe inch in a little closer here. I got as close as I could to this outer wall without nicking my new panel. So smaller wheel, I should be able to maybe get at least a 1/4 inch closer. Man, I was almost able to get all the way through there. It was close. Okay, so I cut out, there's a big rust hole here, little rust hole here. So now I'll lay this on a scrap piece and okay, so trace this out on a piece of metal. I'll nip a couple of these ends off with the shear, and then we'll come in and trim the rest up with the whiz wheel. Okay, try and cut this stuff off without trying to cut my thumb off this time. Last time I used this thing, I was clipping a corner off here, and I had the metal hanging off the edge here. And when you use this thing, like, it moves fluently now, but when you're cutting through metal, like, it's hard. You gotta put pressure, and then once you cut through the metal, it moves like butter. And I had this metal hanging over just enough that when I pushed down, I somehow, I don't know how, but wasn't wearing my gloves, and I ran the sharp razor cut piece that I just cut right along the edge of my thumbnail, and I was real close to cutting the whole side of my thumb off. I actually, as soon as I did it, I flipped my thumb over to look to see if it went all the way through, and I could see the red line. That's how close it was to going all the way through my thumb. And it did so much trauma on this side of my thumb that the opposite side of my thumb turned black and blue. So it was a good one. I probably should have went to the emergency room, but I threw a Band-Aid on it and went back to work. So, but it has not been a pleasant week with my thumb, that is for sure. So I ran it through on the shear. Now I just gotta cut out this square and this square, which I'll just do with the whiz whip. But I got this piece made. I gotta put a little bit of a roll here. And then we can grind it, clean it up, whatever we need to do. So I'm gonna bring you guys over here. We'll put this roll in real quick. I'm just gonna put it in by hand. You know, I could probably slip it into the roller a little bit, but it doesn't. It really doesn't need too much. So I'm just gonna use my T-dolly here. This is just, I made this. I don't know if I videoed it or not. It's just a T-dolly. Slips in. We need it to roll this way a little bit. So not much. Hopefully that's good enough. Hopefully I didn't go too far. Okay, I think we're good. It's maybe a 2-inch, yeah, a 2-inch spot where the gap is a little wider than I would like. But I think it's okay. I ain't scared to weld it. So I think this piece is ready to be welded in. So I think we'll get that welded in tomorrow. I'll sandblast around all this. We'll get it cleaned up. Should probably do that right now and paint the back sides of everything so it can dry overnight. So this is the same stuff I always use. It's just Rust-Oleum 2-in-1 primer paint mix. A gloss black. This stuff's awesome. I use it on everything, and that's the stuff that I say, you know, some people say that, you know, Rust-Oleum is better than PR15. Now I think PR15 is a way better tool for stopping rust, but like I said, you can't use it on bare metal, and you can't use it on painted surfaces. So it's really limited to where you can put it. You know, if you got a rusted area, and then you got, you know, bare metal around that rusted area, it's not going to stick to that bare metal. So you can only put it on the rust, where this stuff, you can put it over everything. Like I said, it might not be to the quality of what PR15 is, but Rust-Oleum has been around for forever, and it was designed to put over rust. So I guess it's, you know, everybody's got their own opinion. I like at least using it for protecting in between two pieces of metal that you're not going to be able to get to once the piece is welded in. So, which is exactly what I'm using it for here. So I'm getting ready to weld this in. Okay, so on the flat surface here, there's a good strong piece of angle iron underneath here with the sheet metal on top. It's, you know, it's going to have a piece of sheet metal for the floor put over it. I'm not super worried about it. I'm just going to fully weld this in. I'm not worried about the heat. I'm not worried about warping. But when it comes to welding it to the sidewall here, because I cut it right in the corner there, you know, we'll spot weld cool, do all that good stuff. So, but this bottom section, I'm just gonna get it welded in. So. Just a couple of holes from the rivets. Like I said, the ones on the end here, chances are I'm gonna have to weld all these up because I don't think the new piece of metal is gonna cover them. And then there was a couple of pinholes over here that I'm just welding up since I'm right here. here I was hitting some rust in that one. Okay, I gotta get the airline and the blowgun. Okay, back. Should have grabbed the blowgun and the air gun before I crawled in here, but I forgot. I might have to get back out to get grinders and stuff. Okay, now welded in nice and strong. I'm going to check the other side. You guys remember last night I brought it over to the T-dolly and I kind of put a corner in it, a rounded corner. And that's because this metal rounds up to the side here and you can see it on the opposite side. I actually had to do a bunch of repair in here. It was rotted out in that bend. Back then when I did that, I did not know they were going to be pulling the floor and doing repairs in here. That probably would have went a little different had we made that decision back then. But it is what it is. I had welded, there was a lot of welds going on in the same area on the outside, trying to repair what I couldn't get to. So I gotta go check outside and see, check on the other side and see how it looks out there. I'm sure it's gonna need some grinding. These welds went through, so and then I'll grab the grinder and stuff. We'll come back in here. We'll get this grinded up and cleaned up and. Okay, we got that all cleaned up. It looks good. I'm happy with it. There was actually some of this area down here, like I said, like it was rotted out here, and from the other side, like I just welded it up and we ground it down. And the aluminum went like right up against the side of this wall. There was maybe like a 1/4 inch between the aluminum and this wall. So it was kind of boogery in there. I couldn't really get down there really good with the aluminum being there. So I was able to get in there now without the aluminum being there. So was able to clean that up a little bit nicer than it was. It wasn't bad before. I was planning on taking that aluminum and I was going to run a finger smear of seam sealer between the aluminum and the bed, and it would have looked fine. You would have never seen it. But now the metal's probably going to be 1 inch from this wall here that will get seam sealed down. But there will be probably 1 inch or so between the metal where the seam sealer is and this wall, and we should, it's not going to be covered with seam sealer anymore. So I'll probably have to smear a coat of Marglass in there, and we'll have to sand it up nice and flat. So, but that's cleaned up now. We're ready to lay the new piece of metal in here, get it marked, get it trimmed. With me saying that we were gonna get the new floor pan cut and test fitted, and here it is with all its glory. It definitely looks a lot better than the aluminum did. I'm much happier with it. Now I'll pull it back out so I can continue on with the work that we got to do, but it's in and it's looking good. So yeah, so that's it. I'm gonna continue on with the passenger side. I don't know how much of it I'll video because you guys seen the exact same thing on the driver's side. But if I find anything worthy of videoing, I'll see you in that video. I'm out.
Oop.